In this video, we'll give an overview of the tool database and look at how we can use the tool database to organise our tools. We'll begin by giving a brief overview of the interface, and then we'll look closer at how we can add, remove and edit the materials and the tools in your tool database. So let's just cancel out here. To access the tool database, you just simply click over into the Toolpaths tab. This icon here will open up the tool database. This is the tool database dialog. Now this dialog is divided into three parts. So we have the top bar at the top here, which controls the materials and the machines that we may have installed on our software. And then we have this central part, which is divided into a left-hand tree. And as I click the left-hand tree, we see the right-hand panel here gets updated. And this panel shows us information about the selected tool. And at the bottom over here, we have commands bar, and this is where we can add and remove tools. We can add and remove toolpath groups, or we can import and export our tool databases. And so all of the tools that we currently have or may want to add in the future, we can associate different settings according to the material and the machines that we are using to cut our parts out with. So if we take a look at the top bar here, so here we have material. You can see at the moment I can see the word acrylic. So the software is currently telling me the settings we're looking at here are appropriate to the acrylic material. And so if we use the drop down menu here, we've got acrylic, hardwood, MDF and softwood. So these are the four materials that will come with your software. Over to the right hand side, we have a similar drop down list, and here we're displayed the machines that we currently have installed in our software. And if we use that drop down menu, you'll see here I currently have in my setup three different machines. I have desktop and large, so these are the two default machines that come with the software. And then I use the option to search online for my machine to bring that into the software, and that's the generic desktop 12 by 24 machine. And so when you browse for a machine online and you install it, then the software will install that with a set of tools that has reasonable initial settings to get you started according to the machine you're using, just as we do for desktop and large. So everything that you see here is just an example of settings that you can use for this particular tool. To add in a new material, you can simply use this icon here, and that will open up the material management dialog. And so here we're able to add, copy and remove material from the tool database. If we use the drop-down list here, you'll see we're displayed the materials we currently have in our tool database. If we wanted to create a new material, we can simply use this plus icon here, and when we click on that, it creates a new material. And if we wanted to change the name for the new material, we can do so over here. For example, let's say we wanted to change that to plywood, would type that in, press apply, you'll see it's now changed in our material drop down list, and you'll see it's been added to that drop down menu as well. We can also select a material and copy it if we wanted to. We could look at removing a material. For example, let's go to hardwood. We'll use this remove active material option here. The software is going to warn us that by removing this material, we're actually going to be removing all of the cutting data for this particular material. Are we sure we want to delete it? Now, in this case, I don't. I want to keep all of my cutting data that I have associated with that hardwood material, so I'm going to go ahead and press no. If, however, we went to plywood, so that's the material we've just created there, and then if we use the remove active material, notice that we don't get a warning here, and that's because we haven't assigned any tools to that particular material. So let's just OK that. Similarly, over to the right hand side, we have the icon here that enables us to open our machine management dialog. And so this is where we can add in new machines, we can copy them, we can remove them all from within this management system. So here we have a drop down and that displays all of our current machines that we have installed on our software. Okay, so we're currently looking at the desktop machine, and then here we can look at the configuration. So we've got the name, the manufacturer, model, controller, the width and height. At the bottom here, we're displayed the associated post processors for that particular machine. And so here you can see I've got 4 different ones, and if I switch through between different machines, you can see that those change. So it's all according to the actual machine that you're using. At the top, we have various options here. So if you wanted to add in a custom machine, for example, if you use the search online option and your machine wasn't there and you wanted to add that in, or you've got a custom built machine, you can do that from here. So you can add in the machine into the database, whereby you just input these different fields, and then you can use this plus icon here to select a post processor to be associated with your particular machine. This option here gives you the ability to install an offline machine package, and then this option here enables you to search online for a machine where you can install that along with any associated post processors and tools set up for your tool database. Okay, so to learn more about machine configuration, please take a look at the machine configuration tutorial guide, which you can find in the related videos section for this particular tutorial. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and just press OK here. And then we can assign or set various settings for our tools according to our machine. Every tool in the tool database consists of 2 separate entities. There are the physical properties of the tool, such as its diameter and the number of flutes, and we call this the tool geometry. And then there is the data that may change if we were using the same tool with different materials, and we call this information the cutting data. To distinguish between the 2 types of data, the tool geometry is stored at the top of the information panel and the cutting data is stored towards the bottom of the information panel. Now let's imagine we have a single 1/4 inch end mill in our workshop. Some properties of this tool will not change whatever material we use. For example, the tool's type or the fact that it's a 1/4 inch diameter. This is the tool geometry. However, other properties, such as feeds and speeds, would depend dramatically on the material that we are cutting. For example, if we were cutting in hardwood, then we would expect the feeds and speeds to be very different versus if we were cutting sine foam. But rather than represent this as 2 different tools in the tool database, we can have just a single tool and adjust the cutting data to match the active material. So let's try this now. So let's go in and we're going to add in a new material. Okay, so we're going to add in a material to our tool database and we're going to call this one sine foam. We'll go ahead, press apply, and then we'll OK to accept that. Okay, so let's just take a moment to take a look at what we're looking at here in our tool database. So we're currently looking at our sine foam material for our desktop machine settings. Here are all of the tools and you'll see that they're all greyed out, and that's because we currently don't have any tools associated with the sine foam material. That's why they're all greyed out here, and so we need to look at adding in the data for those tools and the settings so that we can then use them. So when I click on each one of these tools, so for example the 1/4 inch end mill, the diameter doesn't change here, so that's still a 1/4 inch end mill. We can see it's an end mill there, we can see the number of flutes here, and then at the bottom here we're presented with 3 different options in order for us to copy the settings from for this tool. So we can do that to get us started. So we could say we want to copy the settings from this tool, so the 1/4 inch end mill, or we want to copy the settings from the desktop machine, and then we can choose the material. So for example, let's say we wanted to copy the settings from the hardwood machine initially, and then we could simply go ahead, press copy, and you'll see now that we're able to access the data here where we can alter the feeds and speeds. That's more appropriate for us to be cutting into sine foam. So here what we could do, for example, we could look at altering the spindle speed. So we could make that 18,000, for example. We could alter the feed rate, and so we could make the feed rate here 100, and then we could go with the plunge here of 40. And then once you're happy with the settings, you could simply go ahead and press apply, and then that will essentially add that to your database. So currently now for sine foam and for our desktop machine, we have 1/4 inch end mill, and we can see that's activated here. And so if we wanted to see the tools that we currently have available for us to use, we can actually use the right click menu. We can use this option here, hide unset tools, to which it will just display the tools that we currently have set up for this particular material. And so if we switch now to the hardwood, you'll see that we have the spindle speed, the feed rate and the plunge rate appropriate to this particular material. And then if we switch back to sine foam, you'll see that those values have changed according to this particular material. And so you can see how useful it is to have one single tool where you have a set of different parameters according to the material machines that you're using. So if we switch now to our large machine, you'll see that we're displayed no data here, and that's because we don't have any tools assigned to sine foam for this particular machine. So let's just go back to our desktop machine, and we'll just use the option to unhide those so we can see all of the other tools also. Now, each tool in our tool database will have different adjustable parameters depending on its type. For example, if I look at a V-bit tool, then it has this included angle parameter, whereas an end mill has no such parameter. However, there are lots of fields that are common to all the tools. So every tool supports a tool name, which is listed up here. We have a notes field, and this can be helpful to include reminders about properties of the tool. The tool notes can also be output by the post processor depending on the controller, and that may be useful for some post-processing operations. The tool database always includes the diameter of some form and the number of flutes. To update any field, we just adjust a value and we can hit apply. And if we try to make a change and then go to a different tool, you'll see that we get a warning asking us if we want to save the changes that we've just made. So the name is slightly different. So in order to edit the tool name, then we have to click this icon to the left of the tool name here. And this will open a dialog box. So we can see an input box, and the contents of this input box are interpreted by the software to generate the name for the tool. Now we could just type in a new name for our tool. For example, I may want to call it something like 0.125 end mill, and perhaps I want to put in the manufacturer's ID or something like that. And this naming system will just use this as our name for our tool. We can see that displayed here. So let's hit OK, and you'll see it's now appeared on our tools list. However, if I accidentally updated the diameter of this tool, then you'll see that it actually doesn't change the name that it displays. It still displays this as 0.125 end mill. And so this could potentially lead to some confusion for if I was choosing this tool for an operation. So one of the things that the tool naming system allows us to do is to use facts about a tool in the name, and these are called variables. So let's just click back in to edit the tool name here. So here, where I've said 0.125 inch end mill, I really would like that to be replaced with the actual diameter of the tool. And one way I can do this is to use the right click menu. So let's just delete that for now. I'm going to use the right click menu here. And so here we're displayed all different types of variables. Okay, so we can have options for the geometry of the tool, cutting parameters, feeds and speeds, and then various material and machine options. So for example, we could say we want to specify the tool type here. So we could put in the tool type, and you'll see here we've got the variable, but here we're able to see what that is. Maybe in front of that we want to see what the size of that is. So we could right click, go to geometry, and then we could put in diameter. So here we're now displayed 0.125 end mill. We could put a space between that just to make that look a little bit nicer. And now if you wanted the fraction version, maybe we just delete that and then we just right click and go to geometry, and then here we use the diameter fraction option, and you'll see it's displayed that there. We can also look at right clicking, going to geometry and saying we want to display the units also, and so now it displays this as an 1/8 inch end mill. So let's say we actually wanted the tool type first. So what we could do is we could just delete the tool type here, then go to the start there, and then just go to geometry and put in tool type. We can see we've got end mill 1/8 inch there, and then we could just put a space in, and you can see it's updated there. So there's lots of different variables that we can use, and you can see how easy it is to pick those out. So now that the tool name is automatically generated just from using this format string, if I'd like to use this string as a default for all of the tools of this type, then I can look at clicking this option here. And if I wanted to update all my existing end mill tools to use this tool type, then we could also look at clicking on this option here. And now if we go ahead and press OK, you'll see now that all of my end mills here have been updated to the new naming format. And so this name formatting system is very powerful. And so now that, because we've specified the variable that we want to display the tool diameter, if I go in now and make changes to the tool diameter for this tool, you'll see that it automatically updates the name of that appropriately, which is super handy, and that just ensures that I don't get my data wrong. And so all the details about the different variables and their substitutions can be found in the reference manual. Whilst the tool database supports different types of tools, as a standard, there are many different tool geometries. For example, ogee cutters. And it would be impossible for the software to support all of them. However, it is typical for the tool manufacturers to provide a vector which represents the cross-section of the tool geometry. And we can use this vector to create a tool with the correct geometry. And we call these tools form tools. So let's just cancel out here and we'll look at bringing in a vector of a form tool. So we're just going to go to File. I'm just going to open, and in the project folder we're just going to open up the tool database example and press open. So here you can see we have a vector here that represents the form tool that we've just purchased. So let's switch over to our tool database, and with that vector selected, let's go into the tool database. So here you can see we have a section called form tools. Okay, so we can click on that section here, and then we can look at adding in a new tool. So to add in a new tool, under the selected group, we have that group selected, and we can use the add option. And so here it's automatically displayed a ball nose. So we're going to use a drop down list here, and we're going to use the form tool option. So here Vectric is displaying an error message saying that our vector is not suitable for a form tool and that we must have a single open vector representing the right side of the tool profile. Okay, so we'll just OK that and we'll just cancel out here. Okay, so we're just going to say no, we don't want to save those changes. So here what we need to do is we need to look at editing this vector so we're just displaying the vector on the right hand side. So to do that, let's go into node edit mode. Right click, we'll delete that span here, and then we'll right click and we'll delete this span here. And then what we can do is we can take that portion, select it, and then we can delete that. So we can take the right side of our form tool, we can go back into the tool database. Okay, so we're going to go back into the form tools, we're going to add in a new tool, we're going to go to the form tool, and you can see now that the software has picked up that vector and has displayed it here within the tool database. And so then we can go ahead and create the settings for this tool. So here you'd enter in the feeds and speeds according to the manufacturer's suggestions. In this case, let's just go with the default settings that we've got here. We can go ahead, press apply. We can see now it's been added to our form tools section. If you wanted to delete a tool, you can simply select it and then use this trash can icon here. And if you click on that, it will come up with a warning. Now the software is telling us that if we delete this tool, we're actually removing it, all of the cutting data that's defined for it, along with any other materials or machines that it might be associated with. And so it's asking you if you're sure that you wish to delete this, in which case you could press yes or no. So let's just say no in this instance. In terms of how your tools are organised, you can also look at organising your tools into groups. So far they are in their own groups according to the types of tools that we have available. And you can make subgroups within those groups. So to make a new group, simply select a tool from within the group, and then you can simply use this option here to add a group. And you can see we've got a subgroup here within the form tools. We can give that a name. Let's just call this one OGs, for example. And then we could just put that in there and we could apply it. In which case we could then take your tools and then just drag it in, and you'll see that it's been added to the OGs subgroup of our form tools. So another thing that we can do is we could look at deleting a group. So you select the group and then you press the trash can option, where the software will warn you that by deleting the group, you're actually going to be removing all of the tools and the cutting data that is stored within that group. So in this case, we're just going to press no. We don't want to delete that group there. Another thing that we can do is we can look at exporting our group of tools. For example, if I select the V bits here, the actual group here, and then we could go over and we could say we want to export this selected group. We could click on that, in which case we could say we wanted to save that as the V bits, like so. We could save it, and that's saved to the location that I saved it in. And then, for example, we could take this VBits group and we could go ahead and delete it. And this time we'll just go ahead and press yes. When we press yes, you'll see it's just removed all of the VBits from that group. It's deleted the group and all of the tools that are inside of that group. And so to get that back, we're just going to highlight the Imperial tools here. I'm going to go and use this option here to import a tool database, in which case I'm going to locate my folder here. I'm going to go ahead and press OK. So the software will prompt us how would we like to import these tools. So import will read the tools under the selected group, which we've selected the Imperial tools here. Merge will merge the incoming groups with the current group. Overwriting the cutting data for matching tool geometry will overwrite the matching material or machine cutting data. And then obviously you can press cancel. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and press import. Okay, so importing that, you can see if we just look down, the V bits have been added at the bottom of that list here, and we can move them up and around if we wanted to. So for example, if we wanted the V bits at just over here, we could say we wanted the V bits there underneath the ball nose. That's as easy as it is. Another way that we can import and export our tool databases is through our online tool databases synchronization. And so if we click on this button here at the top to log in, if we're not already logged in, this will enable the online tool database synchronization. And so after I've gone through the process of logging in, we can now see that we are connected and I'm able to upload my current tool database to our portal. And we could also look at pulling down a tool database from our portal. And this is super handy. For instance, if I was working on my home laptop, creating my designs and setting up the toolpaths with the tool data, then I can upload this database using this icon here. And then when I go to work on my PC that's in my workshop, for example, I can then update the tool database simply by logging in and then syncing this tool database to my workshop. So let's just have a look at this tool here. Okay, so you can see currently it's at 16,000 RPM. Let's just say we wanted to upload our current tool database to the portal. We can click on that and that will just do that instantly. And so here's a message to tell us that our tool database has been uploaded to the server. So we can go ahead and press OK. So you'll notice now that the download the latest tool database from our portal icon is enabled, and we can click that to bring that down. Now we're currently working with that one, so it's not really going to make a difference here. So let's say we altered the spindle speed for this tool here to 18,000, and then we go ahead and then press apply. And then if we come up here and then we download the latest tools database from our portal, click that, and then we're presented with the tool database version selector. So this is where we can choose to download a database from a different version of the software if we wanted to. For example, let's say I wanted to download my tool database from version 10. I can do so and it will show up here in the drop down list. Now in this case I want to download from the current version, so I'm currently using version 11, so I want to use the current version, and that's the one that we just uploaded. So I'm going to go ahead and press OK here. And then it will tell us that it's going to overwrite your local tool database with the one held on the server, which was last uploaded, and then the time and the day in which you uploaded it. Do you wish to continue? We can say yes. And then you'll notice now that the spindle speed for this tool has reverted back to 16,000 RPM. Now, if you find yourself wanting to revert to the default database that's shipped with the software, then you can still do that. So what we need to do is we just need to cancel out of the tool database here. So then we'll go to File, and then we'll go to Open Application Data folder. And then here we're going to go into the tool database directory. Okay, so we've got several files in here. So we've got a single file here called tools.vtdb. Okay, and that's the tool database that's used by the software. And you'll see here we have several others as well. And we've got a .vectric one, and that's the one that we supply with the software. So if you wish to revert to the original one, then you just simply overwrite the tools.vtdb with .vectric, and that will overwrite that for you. For version 11.55, we've introduced the ability to share your tool database using a link from your V&Co account. This is particularly useful for users wanting to share their tool data and settings without the end user overwriting their own database. The owner of a tool database can update their database and push newer versions that will get propagated to users who have subscribed to a database, where they'll be notified in the tool database form in the software that an updated version is available. So to upload and share your tool database, you need to go into your tool database. You need to make sure that you are online and that your software is talking to your portal account. We can see by looking at these cloud icons that I am logged in, and I can see that with my username up the top here in the right hand corner. If you're not logged in, then you need to do that. So all I'm going to do is upload my current tool database to the portal using this icon here. If I click on that, a message will pop and it's going to warn me that I'm going to overwrite my tool database that's already loaded onto the server. And do I want to continue? In which case I do. So I'm going to press yes, and then the software will pop up a message to say that the tool database has been uploaded to the server, in which case I can then go ahead and press OK. So in your internet browser, you need to go to portal.vectric.com/tool databases, and that'll take you to the tool database area of your portal account. Now, the tool database you just saw me upload to the portal was from my Cut2D Pro software. You can see the date that was uploaded. We can see the name of that tool database. This is actually an editable field, so I can change that and update it if I wanted to. So I could change that to Becky's tool database, hit update, and that will update there. And then if I want to share this particular tool database, I can do that by hitting this slider here, and then the browser will present to me a link that I can then share with any user that I like, and they'll have access to the settings within my tool database. So if I just hit this copy button to copy this link, and then what we can do is we can provide that to whomever we wish. So now let us say that I'm the receiver of that shared link, and I've got Vcarve Pro. All I need to do in my software is go to my tool database, ensure that I'm online, and then I use this icon here, Manage Remote Tool Databases. And if I click on that, that will enable me to insert a URL. So we're going to right click to paste in the URL that we've just been provided, and then use the option to add that. You'll see the software is downloading it, and then a message will pop up to say remote database Becky's tool database has been added successfully, in which case I can go ahead and press OK, and I can see that's listed there, and then I can simply hit OK. And for me to access Becky's database, I simply go up to this drop down bar at the top here. Currently I'm looking at my local tool database, which is just mine, and if I use this drop down, you'll see I now have access to Becky's tool database, and I can click on that, and here I'm now able to view Becky's tool database, in which case I can go on to all of the different tools that she's got in her database. I'm able to click on links that she might have in the specific notes on a per tool basis. And if I was in a toolpath form open in the tool database, I could actually use all of this data and assign a particular tool from Becky's tool database to my toolpath just by simply hitting that OK button. However, you'll notice that I can't actually edit any of the data here, and that's because it is uneditable. However, if I wanted to copy elements of Becky's tool database to my own, I can actually do that. For example, let's take this 132 tool. To copy that over, I'll just simply right click and say copy to local database, in which case I can choose what part of my tool database I want to copy that over to. So let's say for this example, I'm going to take it to my desktop hardwood section. And then I can go over to local, and you'll see that it's been added here. Now I can make changes to various parameters if I wanted to. So having had access to Becky's tool database, we are essentially subscribed to it. And so if Becky were to make changes to her tool database and push those changes through to her portal, and whilst it's still being shared, we should be able to receive those updates on our end also. So let's have a look at an example of that. So we'll go back into Cut2D. So this is Becky's tool database. Now let's say she wanted to add in a planer tool to plane her spoil board for the MDF on the large machine. So here we'll just add in a new tool. Let's give that an end mill, create our settings, put in various appropriate parameters in here, and then we could go ahead and press apply. We know that 1.5 inch end mill is stored in the MDF large section. So now what we can do is we can basically say upload our current tool database to the portal. So then again, the software is going to tell us that it will overwrite the database in the server. And then the software will confirm that the database has successfully been uploaded to the server. So we'll go ahead and press OK. And so back over to my Vcarve. Okay, so now if we go into Becky's tool database here, and as long as I'm connected to the internet and linked to my portal, you can see that we've got this icon here. This icon is basically telling us there is an update and you can update the remote tool database. And so we can click on that and then a message will pop up saying if you continue, the current remote database will be overwritten. Are you sure you want to continue? In which case you can say yes to update it, or you could simply press no to keep the existing remote tool database. So let's press yes to see what changes have been made. So now it says that Becky's tool database has been updated successfully. So you can go ahead and press OK. And so again, if we go to the MDF and to the large format machine, we can see that the planer tool has been added here. We can have access to all of her settings here. And again, if we wanted to, we can copy that to our local tool database. So let's just take a look at an example where we go ahead and create a new file. And then over in the circle tool, let's just draw a circle. I'm going to look at creating a simple profile toolpath here. So here we could do a profile toolpath, and then if we use the select option here, we can open up the tool database and we can see that we are currently looking at Becky's tool database. So earlier I mentioned that we can use tools from the tool database, again uneditable, and to do that we simply just use the select option to assign it. But it's also worth noting that you can actually edit the tool as normal from the edit option for this toolpath only, and that will edit the settings that we've got stored in here, but just for this particular toolpath. So that completes this tutorial on the tool database guide. Thank you for watching.